welcome to Brand with Podcast. I am your host, Ivan Estrada. In this podcast, we will be discussing all things branding and marketing, from fashion to design, real estate, entertainment, tech, philanthropy, and much more. Nothing is off the table. We will have guests from all over the world to give you a global perspective on branding and marketing. Our goal is to dissect as many branding and marketing experts to get you all thinking about your brand by providing motivation and inspiration for you. Thank you all for listening, and let's roll. Welcome back to Brand with Podcast. I am your host, Ivan Estrada. Today we have a very special guest who played in the NFL for 6 seasons. He was drafted by the New England Patriots in 2006 after playing 5 seasons at the University of California Berekly, where he received 2 first-team All-Pac-10 conference honors, as well as the Morris Trophy for being the Pac-10's top offensive lineman. He finished out the second half of his career on the Kansas City Chiefs, where lingering injuries forced him into retirement. The completion of his football career was more than the end of a significant chapter in his life, as it was a time where we had to confront his unfaced personal challenges. With help from a few people, our guest was able to finally be his true, authentic self and find his new purpose. I would like to formally welcome Ryan O'Callahan. So how's it going, buddy? How are you?
It's going great, Ivan. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thank you so much. So you have quite the story. I mean, I have to say that when we saw your video, it was like, okay, I want to see more. I want to see more of Ryan. Like I can resonate with the story and I can resonate with who he is. And I felt it. So, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And we're recording this podcast in June when it's, celebrating Pride all over the country. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now and any projects that you're currently working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I came out to family in 2012, and then I waited quite a while to come out publicly. I had to get my life together. But when I decided to come out publicly, I had a feeling that, people would reach out to me, want advice. And so I wanted to really have a platform to do that. So I started my charity. I call it the Ryan O'Callahan Foundation. Originally, the idea was more to give scholarships to LGBTQ athletes. It was an idea without a total understanding of how difficult it is to give scholarships with all the rules out there. But I also didn't anticipate exactly how many closeted athletes would reach out to me wanting to sit down, talk, advice. So really, I kind of made a turn with the whole idea. And now I've been more focused on really outreach and talking to closeted athletes who really find themselves in a similar position than I was. Like you mentioned earlier, my story's kind of like an onion, a lot of messy layers. So people are able to relate on a lot of different levels.
So tell me a little bit about that experience. When did you know? Like, was it when you were 10, 12, 15? Like, how did that kind of evolve over time where you thought, wait, I think this is it. Like, I think I might be gay.
Yeah, when I was, a kid, elementary school, my buddies were having a little crush on a girl here and there, and I just wasn't feeling it. Now, at that point, I didn't know I was gay. I did think something was up, though. But I knew for sure as soon as I hit puberty, because not only am I not attracted to girls, I am attracted to men. And that's when, based off everything I heard from family and friends, throughout my life up to that point, I thought that I had to be closeted and no one would ever accept me for being gay.
How is your family now? Like, how was that experience of coming out to them? Because I know personally for me, I had a bit of a rough patch with my family. Like, I think it was the opposite from your experience, that I thought they were going to take it a lot better when it did come out, because in my life, I actually wasn't going to come out. I thought, I like girls here and there, and, I just have to find the right girl, and, I'm just going to live this, I think, inauthentic life. And I'm okay with that, because I want to make sure that my family and my friends and everyone around me keep respecting me and keep loving me. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to just pretend. And, unfortunately, my parents and I, we went our own separate ways for a long time. But with your experience, it was different.
Yeah, I was absolutely convinced that no one in my family would accept me. But when I did finally get to the point and gain the courage to actually tell them, I was surprised, to say the least, with their response. I started by telling my parents. Well, I told my best friend first, but as far as family goes, I told my parents. But at that point, I hadn't spoke to my parents in months. I was really struggling with my mental health and drug addiction and suicidal thoughts. And I was just pushing them out of my life to, make it easier on them if I followed through on my plans. So when I did reach out to them, they were happy to hear from me, but they didn't know what was going on. I went out to California, and it was just me and my parents sitting in the living room. And I made it very dramatic because to me, this was the biggest thing I was ever saying. And it was their opinions that I cared about more than anything. So it took me quite a while sitting there across from them in the living room to actually say the words, I'm gay. I practiced my whole life not saying those words, and I dreaded their reaction my whole life. So when I did tell them, my mom stood up and gave me a hug, and she started crying and told me she loved me. And my dad, he gave me a hug, which was much better than I pictured. I pictured things getting thrown and getting kicked out of the house, and for my dad to just give me a hug and everything, it felt good. That's what I thought I needed at the time. Fast forward a little bit, I didn't even try to date or anything for over the first year. I had to get myself together, and it took that long. It took me dating the first person for my dad to even bring it up. For that first year and a half after I came out, we didn't talk about it. But really, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about because I wasn't, living a gay life or anything. But I think as soon as he saw me with someone, it became real. And the first thing he said to me that opened that line of communication, he said, after an event that I took a guy to, he said, "Brandon seemed nice." So that was kind of his way of to me letting me know, okay, it's okay. He's come around. He likes the guy. I mean, I'm not dating him anymore, but he liked the guy. And that from then on, we've had a pretty open line of communication. And, we're now to the point where my dad tells me he's proud of me for the different things I'm doing to try to help others and using the platform that I've, been blessed with to try to help and get the NFL to do more and more.
And so tell me a little bit about what you're doing, other than the foundation, especially with the NFL, because I think of the NFL as a brand and, I wasn't really into sports growing up. I try to cover up my, the fact of me being gay by doing other things with my dad or playing soccer or anything that kind of felt masculine. And obviously the NFL brand is a very masculine brand. Is that kind of what led you into the football and kind of why you concealed it as well for as long as you did, kind of feeling like, well, what is the NFL going to say if I come out while I'm playing? This can be a huge ordeal.
Yeah, we have that in common. I didn't love sports growing up either. And I honestly, I still don't. To me, football was solely a cover for being gay. It was the best cover I could find, but I never thought I could come out when I was playing. I didn't hear a lot of homophobia in the locker room, not in the NFL locker room at all. You do in high school and college, but kids will be kids. But once you get to the NFL, I didn't experience that. So there wasn't anything that happened when I was in the NFL that drove me deeper into the closet or anything like that. It was really my own internal struggles. But when I came out, one of the first people that reached out to me was Mr. Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. And as a player, I had no idea he was such an ally. I didn't know about all the things he did for, speaking out for marriage equality before he was even a thing and supporting the Gay Flag Football League Super Bowl. And then soon after that, I heard from Roger Goodell, and the NFL started an employee resource group for their New York employees and had me out to come speak on a panel for them. And after that, Roger pulled me aside and we started chatting, and he asked me what he can do to help other closeted players. I was kind of caught off guard, didn't have a great answer, but basically, we talked a little bit, and I said, I'll get back to you. And since then, I've met with the league a couple of times, met with Roger again, November 2019. And I gave him some things to do. He's very receptive. Roger's brother's gay. I didn't know this. So he understands the community, but he's also running a multi-billion-dollar business. And, like most businesses, money's the priority. So, I understand that the NFL can only do so much, but because, they're hesitant to alienate any fans and hurt business. But I think they're finally to a point now where they understand that doing the right thing is more important. So they've done quite a few things, from sponsoring pride parades and having floats in New York to this past year on Coming Out Day, they did a commercial at the halftime of all their games where not only did they have me and another out former player, but they had allies like Gronkowski and other big name guys basically sending the message, hey, if you're gay, come out, we have your back. And Just tomorrow, I'm doing a Instagram live thing with the NFL. So they're taking steps to use their platform and their influence to really to do better. And I'm proud of them for it. Now, obviously, there's a lot more things that they can do to actually reach guys in the locker room, which I've been pushing for. But I'm not going to get greedy. I'm happy with what they're doing, but I'm going to continue to try to get them to commit to more.
Committing to more, like what does the ideal world look for you? Like when you say you want them to commit more, what does that look like?
Well, I think it's important to actually reach guys in the locker room. It's great to help, to get the NFL out there saying, yes, we support it, because there's a lot of people out there that are fans of the NFL that don't, and it might make them think twice, but there's a lot of closeted players. And I think it's important to reach those players in the locker room. I think it's no secret that if a big name closeted player came out, that would have more of an impact than pretty much anything. Just the influence the NFL has and pro athletes have on society in general, it would. So I mentioned coming out every year to the rookie symposium where they gather all the rookies who were drafted the year, and they have a series of meetings, financials, sex education, just basic, don't spend your money, don't get someone pregnant, and have someone come talk about, yes, there's LGBTQ people in the locker room, your words matter. No, showering with them doesn't matter, just the basics. And I think that's a way to reach everyone in the locker room. It's something very simple that the NFL can do, and it really wouldn't cost them anything.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I totally agree with that. And coming like from, we're a branding podcast, and, I'm trying to kind of, come up with one of my coaches would always say, branding is what people say about you when you leave the room. What was it that would cross through your mind, like, when you were in the league, of the things that maybe people were saying when you left regarding to branding or who you thought you were?
Yeah, like I said, in the NFL, there wasn't a lot of homophobia. It was more guys talking about their, how many girls they got with, or the cheerleader, or the groupies. It wasn't, there wasn't a whole bunch of, or any gay bashing or anything like that. And I really think that's a positive thing, obviously, for closeted athletes, but it's going to take, more of the NFL and the teams on their own doing bigger things to actually show their support. That's going to make, the closeted person in that locker room, stand up and finally say something.
And tell me a little bit more about your experience, because support systems and, having someone to talk to, especially if you feel that you're not feeling well. I don't feel like I fit in. I think for you, it was an epic time to be able to have that therapist to talk to about coming out. How was that for you when you had to tell your therapist, I'm gay?
I really got lucky by our team trainer noticing something wrong with me. He noticed, he knew I was taking painkillers. He didn't know how many, but I think he just saw me often enough where he saw a decline, and he recognized it, and he was discreet about it, but he brought me in his office and said something. Once again, he didn't know, I was gay. He didn't know the extent of things, but it took someone recognizing, me being different for me to seek the help. I don't think at that point I would have done it on my own. I think people need to not be afraid to actually go out and say, I need help. I'm going to go talk to someone. What's the worst that can happen? The people, the professionals you talk to can't say anything. And even if you don't want to go talk to a professional, you're struggling with being closeted. I'm sure everyone could look at their close friend group and find someone, think of someone who you would feel pretty confident that you could tell them they would be okay with it, and they're not going to tell anyone else. I think that's a great start, because most people aren't going to get lucky like me and have someone recognize that something's going on and then set them up with a therapist and everything else. So I was very lucky in that respect.
No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I still, see a therapist every week. And I think it's so healthy to have someone to talk to. Just having someone to be able to fire off all this information and try to process things, not just things from work, family, but just in life, right? To be able to unpackage, like what you said earlier with your journey, it's like been like an onion, right? It's been like this kind of like kind of unflowering of this onion. And so for you in your purpose, what does your purpose look like now? What's other than having, your amazing Ryan O'Callahan Foundation, like how has your purpose changed from, let's say, from when you were in the league to where you're at now?
Yeah, well, I want to say something based on what you just said. It's great that you still see therapists and you talk about it openly. I do too. Every month I still talk to someone. Do I feel like I need to? No. Do I think I'm crazy? No. But just being able to say something to someone in confidence and get their 2 cents, it's priceless. I think we all need to focus more on our mental health, whether you really think you need to or not. I think you'd be surprised the benefits of actually talking to someone. But yeah, my purpose now, I think is, generally helping people that were in my same position. A lot of times that is as simple as just listening. I've had several closeted athletes. It still happens every month or two. You just reach out and just want to talk. I think we both remember the first time we told someone that we were gay and our fears and how good that felt, whether it was a therapist whose opinion really didn't matter or a close friend. It just feels good to actually be able to tell someone. So I'm happy to be that person that someone can go to talk to, that they know that I'm not going to say anything, and that I've lived this life at this point to, be able to give them good advice. And I'm always happy to listen and point to positive examples of athletes who've been able to come out and have a even more successful career after coming out. Now, obviously you shouldn't come out for financial reasons, but there's plenty of Olympic athletes that I could point to where it's actually benefited their career and made their name. So yeah, my purpose now is to help others who are in the position I'm in, to try to spread a more positive message. I think too many people are hung up on thinking that sports are toxic for LGBTQ people, when that's been the opposite of my experience. I haven't had a negative reaction from any teammate that I've played with and or owner that I've met with, and it's really been quite the opposite. So I think the more people that can hear that and understand that sports are a safe place, it's the better.
And let's talk about fear, because especially during COVID, fear was just running rampant everywhere. Like, how did you, other than the therapist, was there anything else that helped you really confront that fear and face it head on? Because for everyone, there's so many friends of mine and relatives who have dreams about this and that, but then fear just stops them at their tracks. Do you have like a certain system or something that kind of helped you make that bold move, other than your coach and the therapist that really helped you along the way?
It really was the trainer and the therapist. For me back then, it was mentally had a lot of problems. And for me, it was a life or death situation. So, it's ridiculous looking back at how big of a deal I made it. But it really was the therapist and everything that made me, take a step back and for 10 minutes think maybe this could be okay. Because that's all it was. It was all fear that was keeping me in the closet. For 29 years that I was closeted, I never took 10 minutes to stop and think, maybe I can come out. Maybe my family will love me. And it actually took the therapist saying, well, if you're just going to kill yourself, why don't you talk to family and find out if you need to? Something that basic. And I think I'm a reasonable guy. It never even crossed my mind. So for that long, I was just so negative and caught up in my own fears that I drove myself insane. Quite honestly. So, there's a lot of cliches about facing your fears and everything else and taking chances. But I think the most successful people out there and the happiest people do that.
Yeah. And in your book, My Life on the Line, you talk about how parents should be very cautious with the words that they use and to be able to support their children. And I have my book coming out in November, Brand with Purpose. And I instill that in the book as well, that parents should support their kids no matter what. It could be about them going to art school instead of, going to law school, or, just having different life choices that probably the parents don't approve with. But, at the end of the day, as long as you love your kids and you support your kids and that they know that, I think they'll be able to live a more fulfilling life and be more authentic to themselves without having to live up to mommy and daddy's perception of what we should be. So tell me a little bit more about that, about your book and the main message that you want people to get out of it.
Yeah, words matter. And what I've talked to several parents with LGBTQ kids and their reaction, and a lot of the parents' concerns or their fears that their child's life's going to be more difficult and what should they do? But I also like the conversation I had with my sister about my nieces and my nephew. She's saying, well, what should I do? I said, well, remember what we used to hear from mom and dad and our aunts and uncles about gay people, this. I'm like, yeah, don't do that. Just, there's no harm in early on just sitting them down and saying, when you hit puberty, you may like girls, you may like boys. Either way, we love you. So don't think it's a big deal. Just let us know. And don't just say it once, say it a few times over the years. And I think that'll instill in your kids that they know that they'll be loved no matter what, and it'll make them more comfortable, because the fact is, the earlier you can come out and be yourself, the more confident and better off you'll be in the long run.
Yeah, the better world we'll live in. I think I have my little nephew who's a year and a half, and my sister is also gay, and her partner and my sister Vianette, like, they're making sure that their kid, that he knows that he is loved no matter what choices he makes. I mean, the messages that they have across his room, the books that he's reading, it's just, it's like you got to start them off young, right? Making sure that they know that they are loved no matter what, and that we live in a world that's just more authentic to itself, and having just people just love people no matter what, no matter what you like, what you look like, where you live, what you like to eat, even, that we just kind of just live in a world of harmony. And, I think now, after the pandemic, and especially with what we've seen in this country, I feel like we're so divided that it's just like, we got to do something to kind of just mesh all this back together. So, Ryan, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Any message that, if there's a 12-year-old boy listening to our podcast and he knows your story and he knows who you are, like, what message do you have for him or her?
Yeah, I always tell kids, just don't be afraid to be yourself and be as authentic as possible from as early an age as you can. It's, I think, have faith that people will accept you for who you are. And, and if people don't, also have faith that the world will catch up, and one day that, they'll figure out how good of a person you are. Yeah. And talk about how you feel. There's no need to hide or try to be someone else. And in the sports world, don't think that being lesbian, gay, trans, whatever, means you can't do something. I've heard that an awful lot. The fact is, there's more out college football and probably every other sport players right now than there ever have been. So there's a lot of examples out there. If you want to be a college football player or even a professional, you can. I think it's only a matter of time before a lot of these kids' idols that are athletes start coming out, because they are out there. So yeah, just be yourself as from an early an age as possible, and have faith that people will accept you. And if the people around you don't, you'll find a whole group of people who will.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for listening in. And thank you again, Ryan, for joining us. This has been so inspirational. And you can follow Ryan on Instagram at @OCallahanRyan, or check out the Ryan O'Callahan Foundation by visiting rondf.com. Thanks again. This was awesome. You're very inspirational, to people like me who, I'm 37, and your story just resonated with me so much. And it just reminds me that kids out there who are 8, 9, 10, 15, who still need us to be a good role model. So thank you for filling those shoes, and, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you all again for listening to this episode. For more information on branding and marketing, check out our ecosystem on brandwidth.com. You can also find more tips by signing up for our newsletter that's not boring, or by following us on social media. If you're looking to get featured on this podcast to discuss your branding or marketing needs, find out how to do so on our website as well. Can't wait for you to brand with us again.